Hello and welcome to another episode of the No Nay Never Football Show. I'm your host, Natalie Bromley, and we are back in East Lancs derby mode. It is here, round 2. This time the Clarets are travelling down the M65 to meet our Lancashire hot pot rivals at Ewood Park. This is going to be a much more stressful game than I think either club's anticipated. We thought by this stage of the season, after the rearranged fixture, that Rovers would either be out of the playoffs or firmly in them, and Burnley would have already lifted the title. As it turns out, there is a lot more riding on this game than we had, both sets of fans maybe had perhaps hoped. In a new wave of collaboration, we are joined this week with our friends at Rovers Chat. Feels very strange hearing the term friends when we're talking about our East Lancashire rivals. But it's 2023. We've got a new generation of rivalry. We've got a new generation of football fan. It's about time that both sets of fans were able to sit down, talk about the game, talk about where their respective seasons have gone, and give us a match prediction. Hold on to the end of this show until you get to hear Dan talk about that JBG tweet, which got him into a little bit of hot water with the Clarets fans recently. We give Dan the opportunity to put the record straight. Don't forget, please hit that subscribe button and leave your comments in the show notes. It does help with our future as a football show, and it does help get those numbers up. So please do subscribe where you can. Otherwise, here we go. Dan, and East Lancashire first. We have broken ranks and we have decided that it's 2023. There is a new era of the East Lancs derby, and 2 content creators can sit down and have a chat about the East Lancs derby ahead of a game. I think this is new ground that I'm enjoying, Dan.
Yeah, it is. It'll be interesting to discuss it, especially with all the added pressure of both of us maybe not being in the position we thought we would be coming into this.
Exactly. Well, let's start right there, because I think you and I were talking just before we went on air today that this is perhaps ended up being a pressure situation that neither of us wanted. We thought that when this fixture was rearranged owing to both of our late runs in the FA Cup, that you'd have been comfortably in the playoffs by now. We'd have lifted the title by now, and it would just be nothing but East Lancashire pride to play for. Talk us through how you are currently feeling, Dan.
Nervous doesn't describe it. You know, you mentioned that. I thought the only thing we'd be stopping you, or at least trying to stop you getting with a points record, to be honest. I thought you were still going to be on for it. I thought the only thing we might get out of this game, obviously the win will be massively important for everyone in terms of East Lancashire pride, but I thought we'd be heading to this thinking, can we just stop them breaking the record?
Yeah.
But obviously 2 late goals in a week. The Coventry one that I thought ran ball at the time, it actually wasn't by the look of it. And then obviously yesterday going through one goal in the 95th minute, Spain in a chance, and then Preston put it up the other end and we scoring on goal. And yeah, to say it's added to the nerves, it'd be an understatement really. We could be 4 points clear now heading into this game, and like you say, it'd only be Lancashire pride that matters, but nerves have really kicked in. We know that it's almost a free game. If it were anyone else, it'd be a free game to try and get 3 points. But with it being Burnley, it's that added pressure, isn't it? If we're looking at this and we're playing Sheffield United, we're like, well, we obviously want to win to get the points on the board, but does it really matter that much if we lose?
No, that's fair. But
players.
Surely the Clarets' performances since the Easter weekend, when promotion against Borough was confirmed and our absolutely destroying Sheffield United at Turf that Easter Monday, there's been a significant drop-off in intensity from where we're concerned. We knew we had, 7 or 8 games left to lift the title. We knew that we already had a really comfortable points target ahead of Sheffield United. Vincent Kompany has gone into squad rotation mode. He's been playing second string players. Some players have been coming back from injury and they've been given an opportunity. We've had 3 draws against and a loss, only the 3rd loss of the season, and we've lost our home record yesterday against QPR, also fighting for their lives. That must give you some element of hope that you have something to play for and we don't.
Yeah, it does a bit, like you say, with these results. I mean, that loss yesterday, I thought no matter what you do, you'd beat QPR yesterday, and obviously that happened. I think we sit there now and it gives us a bit of hope going into it, but we know, again, it's that added pressure of being this derby game. Rovers players know they have a lot to make up for with the last result back in November. They know that obviously the fans want it. The fans have want this, even if we were bottom of the league, already relegated, the fans want it. And
Yeah.
I know the Burnley players will be up for it. I know the fans won't let Burnley come into this and not at least step it up a few gears, given what I've seen recently. There's a bit of hope there, but we know what Burnley have, and we obviously were still scarred a bit from last time, so we know there's always talent there. It'll be interesting to see how Company approach it. I imagine you'll go full strength and intensity will be there from kick-off. Your fans will obviously want it being in the ground, and it'll be an interesting one to see how we go, because the last thing John Doe Thomason wants is 2 Burnley losses on his record. You know, Mowbray had 1, and then before that, I think it was Boyer the last time we played you. And whenever you think of a manager, the record against Burnley is always mentioned. So Thomason will definitely want one, both for the playoff push and obviously personal pride.
Yeah, I think one massive boost for you guys is the loss of Nathan Tella. Our attacking threat has significantly decreased since he went out injured, and I don't think we'll see him again before the end of the season, to be honest. We haven't looked as ruthless up front as we have since we lost Tella. I think we have options. Jay's now back as well, and he'll be desperate to play, obviously, in the derby on Tuesday. I think we're creating a significant number of chances. I'm not even exaggerating. I don't know how we didn't go in at half-time yesterday 17-0 up. Like, there were 2 open nets that just bounced off and inexplicably ended up going out for a throw-in. It was ridiculous. Both Ashley Barnes and Taylor Harwood-Bellis missed absolute sitters. But I guess with that, with Teller being injured, knowing that we will create chances, how do you think you will approach the game in terms of nullifying our threat?
I think Rovers have gone into these last few games and we've changed tactics halfway through. We've gone for a back 5 and tried to shut teams out, and it hasn't worked. It's worked for the first 6 or 7 months of the season. It worked perfectly. I can't see him trying it again. I think he'll just go for a 3-man midfield, try and outplay you in the midfield. It kind of seems to be his way of going. He'll definitely want to play the 2 Wharton brothers who didn't play last time, 2 Blackburn lads that were really picked up on in the previous game that they weren't involved in. I just think he'll go to try and win the midfield battle. I think that's where our best game comes as well. If we can get hold of the midfield, let Adam Wharton on the ball and do what he does best, it's probably our strongest way. I don't think we'll try and defend to beat you. I think we'll just try and attack and score goals rather than try and nick it a 1-0, because we know we're not going to do that. We know if we win, it's going to be a 2-1, it's going to be a 3-2. So for me, it's that midfield battle. I think he'll stop the midfield and just hope that we actually hit you on a counter-attack or something and get a goal or 2. But it'll be interesting because we've not played many, Burnley have been the side this year that are a mile ahead of everyone. Sheffield United, we always felt like we could beat. We beat them at Ewood comfortably as well. It were only 1-0, but I think we were much more comfortable than the scoreline suggests. So it'll be interesting because the only game we've seen him against a really good side was the first game, and obviously that went well for 55 minutes in terms of the game plan, and then obviously it fell apart. It'll be an interesting one. I can't work out what he's going to do, but with that many injuries as well at the moment, that it could be anything, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, is that, like I say, we're looking like we're missing Ekdal. He's been a blow. I think I prefer him at centre-half alongside Jordan Bayer rather than Taylor Harwood-Bellis. He just gives a little bit of experience and a little bit of control at that back. Yeah. Taylor Harwood-Bellis is great, but does have some vulnerabilities in terms of conceding possession and being drawn slightly out of position at times. But everybody else, apart from Nathan Tella, is back, so we're pretty much back to a full-strength side. I guess the only other thing that I wanted to pick up on with you, Dan, generally is how you're feeling about where you are as a club now going forward. It's been documented a lot over recent times. Your relationship with the owners, Venkers, has been troubled at times. It seems to have all calmed down a little bit now. You don't necessarily see the conflict that we've had in previous years. You've got a settled side, you've got a young side, and you've got a manager who's impressing at this level. I spoke to a Rovers fan not so long ago who suggested that this season has perhaps come a season earlier than you were expecting, in that you are now on the up and you are pushing for promotion, but this year would be a bonus. And actually, if it doesn't happen, you were ahead of yourself anyway. How accurate is that, and where do you sit now in terms of where your future lies?
That's spot on. That's absolutely, he's hit the nail on the head there. I think you look at she's hit the nail on the head. So we look at it and, you know, we sit there, we come in with a term project, and I know that's often used all the time in football. It's maybe sometimes used when things aren't going right as almost, you know, just watch and learn, and it's going to be frustrating. But I'm completely agree with the fan who said that. I think Rovers are at that stage. We're probably expecting mid-table this year, you know, pick up some good results, but lose some games you wouldn't expect us to. And we sit there in 6th, and we kind of feel disappointed almost that we've not gone and secured the playoffs already, really.
Okay.
And it's a weird feeling because we shouldn't feel that way, really. We should be glad where we are. We should be happy. If we did this again next year, I still think it'd be in a good position to then go and do something. But it's a weird one because Rovers really, you know, you look at Christmas time, last time we played, it were a battle for the top, weren't it, heading into the World Cup. And we sat there thinking, if we carry on doing this whole season, why can't we finish second? Why couldn't we keep Burnley at the title at one point? It looked like we could almost keep
first 10 games.
But I mean, it's really weird. It's tough because we'll be disappointed if we don't make the playoffs. But then, upon reflection, I think once we've had time to look at it and sit down, we'll think this club's probably in the best position it's been in since the Premier League days, really. It's a hard one to judge because when you've had success and you've done well, you know, this season, you expect it, don't you? You expect more. Look at Huddersfield last year, did really well, and kind of their fans went into it expecting the same, and now they're on the verge of League One. It's really weird. It's hard to explain. I think expectations as a Blackburn fan, we discussed it back in November at the Sky, you know, when we did the thing for Sky, that when you're a Blackburn fan and your club's won the Premier League before, you sometimes expect more than you really should. You know, Burnley and Rovers are 30 years ago, much different sides, weren't they? And now we're kind of at the stage where you're likely to go on and be an established Premier League club under company, in my eyes. And we've got to kind of sit back and play the long game and try and build to make it up there. It's weird. I think it's hard to manage expectations of a club that achieved it all 30 years ago. Although I think the majority of our fans understand that maybe Rovers aren't what we think they are. And I just find it strange. It's hard to really to put Rovers, to sum us up. It's tough. I've tried all season and
I get it.
You still can't work us out. I think we've got that young side you mentioned, and I think you can see that in the reverse game, that it were a young side that were learning and a young side that needed time. It's going to be a tough one where we go next year, because ultimately, if we're not in this playoff push all season like we have been this year, fans will see it as a step down from the previous year, and then does that put the manager under pressure? It's really weird. It's easy.
So
I think
hard.
It's much easier from your position as outside. What do you make of Rovers? Do you think they're in that position to then go on and do it? Have they had a good season? Because it's easy
definitely.
to judge them when you've done it or watched them every week all season. But, you know, from an outside perspective.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those where the Championship is a brilliantly competitive and amazing division when you are newly relegated and you have parachute payments and you can attract the Vincent Kompanies of the world of managers. You can afford to be in the transfer market and you're winning every single week. We aren't naive enough to realise that, you know, you ask some of the longer term Championship sides who've been in there for 10 years now, you know, that you've got Borough down there, you've got Rovers, you've got, you know, those sides who are desperately trying to get up or have gone up and down again. West Brom, you know, they're having a miserable time in the Championship because once you've been down for a little bit too long, it's impossible to get out. I think, this season for me, has been the most positive and I guess proactive Rovers, both club side and on the playing staff that I've seen in a long time. And I've never worried about you before. Actually, let me caveat that. I've never worried about you. I have no problem with Burnley and Blackburn being in the same division. We always want to be better than you. We'd always want to beat you, and vice versa. But why would you not want the East Lancs derby every single week? And why would you not want Lancashire clubs? If we got our way, we'd want Preston, Black. You know, all of the senior Lancashire sides should be in the Premier League. Of course, it's great for the county. But I thought you were miles off it. And this season is the first season where I've thought, actually, you're on the up. I guess my constant challenge to that has always been your owners. And I'm now in a position, I guess there was a smugness from us before because we've been in local ownership for our entire history. And then suddenly we've sold to ALK, the Americans have come in, and you're suddenly in that position where you go, oh, you know, does it make a difference when you've got an ownership that are not born and raised in East Lancashire? We're incredibly lucky that our owners have invested in it and they've bought into our community and they get it. And I think that's the missing piece of the puzzle for you. I think they have to sell. Who they sell to, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything to fear being outside of local ownership. It can work if you get the right club in there, but I think you need fresh investment at the top now. You never hear from Venky's, then they're silent owners. They don't seem to have a presence. They don't seem to want to promote you. The cash isn't being injected into the club. So I think that's now, yeah, bearing in mind that, you know, that is from a real not just an outsider's perspective, it's from a rival outsider's perspective as well. So I don't live and breathe the club like you do, and I don't go out of my way to see what's going on in the community or what's being pushed, you know, from their own comms. So you might disagree, but that to me feels like you're not going to take the next step to be relevant again. And this is the point I'm picking up with you saying that, yeah, the Rovers that won the Premier League was 30 years ago. The Premier League wasn't the Premier League that it is now. That was pre the money coming in and pre the big six that's emerged, the Super League teams. But that, to me, I think that's where you need to go next. How do you make a community founder member of the Football League with all of this history, this fan base and this illustrious part of the football pyramid? How do you then become relevant in football in 2023? And I think that's where
it's an interesting one, because you mentioned Alan Pearson. Obviously, you know, they took over. And the thing that I think's impressed me with Burnley this year is we saw all the stuff in the summer about having to sell this quick fire sale, all this debt that had to be paid back and all that, some which were true, some which wasn't. And I'm sure you heard more of it than we saw. I'm sure you got it from every angle. But it was interesting. I think the way he's done it's really impressive. I like the fact that, you know, you went and got company who wasn't the easy option. I know he's been a successful player, but an inexperienced manager, really. He's not had much experience, and you take him in, and I was really impressed by the way they've done it. And you mentioned the outside perspective. The Venky's one's a tough one. It's I'm sure fans have seen everything from both sides about the ownership, and like you said, they're not really in touch anymore. I think that's a good thing in terms of, at least in the public eye. I think they distracted from the actual football that should have been going on and getting behind the team. I think when they were here, it was, right, let's focus on the Venky's. It wasn't, at least let's spend the 90 minutes in the ground backing the team and backing, you know, the players who are on the pitch. Because ultimately, they're the ones that get the stick, aren't they? If things are going wrong at the club, it's the manager that gets it. Don't get me started on Steve Keane, but say even with Gary Boyer here and all the Venky protests, I don't think Gary Boyer was a man that should have been getting the stick. He was just, unfortunately, the front man of a club with owners that weren't really seen. So it's easier to vent your frustration when you're in the ground, isn't it, than actually going down to the ground and venting it at people who, again, don't really have anything to do with the ownership, because general staff aren't the people you should be taking your issues out on.
No, they're not.
It's tough. It's weird one. I don't see them going anytime soon. We probably need to go back to the Premier League for that, because then they could at least get some money back, because they have put money.
That's true.
It's been due to the downfall, really. The reason the money's had to be put in is because we haven't been kept in the Premier. If we were in the Premier League for 3 more years, we'd have had all that TV money that come in almost just after we left and you went up. So
yeah,
it's weird. You know, I'm not an issue with them like I used to have, but ultimately, I think we all know where the club needs to go. And you're right, I think localness is good. We're good in the community as a club, but do you have that passion for the club that, you know, maybe a local investor would? Is there anyone locally be willing to take it on? Because it's a tough task, isn't it, being the head of a club? The moment something goes wrong.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Definitely wouldn't.
No, I definitely wouldn't. You get asked that question all the time, don't you? If you had the money, would you take over?
Nope.
Not a chance.
Absolutely not.
Not a chance whatsoever.
I don't necessarily think we talked about this a lot when Pace and ALK took over. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing taking a club out of local ownership. To run a business successfully, you have to be able to make cold, hard commercial decisions. And local owners who've been fans their entire life, do they always make decisions with their head, or do they make decisions with their heart? And I think you need to have that. I'm going to end this piece then, Dan, with a little bit of lightheartedness. You recently, unexpectedly, became a whipping boy of the Burnley fans as a result of a slightly, I would say, misjudged tweet from our Icelandic superstar. Of course, you were the you and I have worked together. We've done work with the League of 72 podcast, and you made a comment about Burnley in your capacity as a Blackburn fan, which was completely legitimate and sound, taken slightly out of context. And in the excitement of promotion, Johan Berg Gudmundsson tweeted that piece with some little bit of banter headed your way. So I ask you this question. How pleased would it make you if Johan Berg Gudmundsson was to score a 94th minute own goal on Tuesday to hand you the 3 points? Would that be some nice karma, Dan?
Oh, that would be the best moment of my life if you hadn't done it. That was going to be my prediction today. 1-0 Rovers, Johan Berg Gudmundsson. No, that, like you mentioned, we've worked together before. We had a good chat about Rovers Burnley on the November one, just after we'd been beat, actually. And as hard as it was, I praised Burnley quite a lot in it, and almost to the point where I was making myself sick with it. But cut it. But when they put the clip on, I was sat there thinking, this is not going to go well, and it went everywhere. Do you know, at the end of the day, it happens. It's an opinions game, isn't it? And like you say, if he went and scored that own goal on a Tuesday night, I'll be slightly smug just stood there watching.
I imagine.
It'd be an interesting one. No, I'll be honest. If we'd have gone up and it'd have been the other way around, I know someone would have made a slight dig about it from our side. It's all fun and games at the end of the day. It is. I will be very, very glad and very smug though if he does.
Okay, and I hope as a Burnley fan, I hope it doesn't happen. But out of respect for you, I'll definitely think of you if that happens for sure. Dan, thank you very, very much. Want to give us a quick score prediction before we leave?
Oh, I've got to go for 1-0 Rovers, Johan Berg Gudmundsson on goal, Anna. If I'm going for something serious, I'll go for a draw. Maybe I've got my Rovers head on. I'll go for a 2-2 draw. I think it could be anything. It won't shock me. We were saying off it, the most Rovers thing to do now is go and beat Burnley and then still not get the playoffs. Yeah. So I'll go for 2-2.
2-2. I am going to predict a Burnley win just purely because, well, my head's telling me it should be a draw because we've been drawing everything away recently. But I will always back my boys. I can't not do. So I'm going to go for a really narrow. I don't think it'll be anywhere near what it was like at Turf Moor. I'm going to say a 1-0 victory to Burnley. So there you go, listeners. That has been the preview of the East Lancs derby with ourselves and Rovers Chat. Do check out Dan and his team at Rovers Chat if you want to get some East Lancs banter. Really good guys, put some great content out there, and long may our newly found rivalry and relationship across East Lancashire continue. Until next time. The Known and Ever podcast is brought to you in association with the TalkSport Fan Network. Natalie Bromley is the host and editor, and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The Analysis Show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Richard Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby, Adam Dennett, and Robbie Kopak. Our music is provided by George Gaskill, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonadenever.substack.com. Our thanks as ever go to our partners TalkSport. We are as ever proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.